Hi, everyone, and welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are joining us from. My name is Roman Pascual, Sales Manager at Johan Cruyff Institute, and it's a real pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar, Football Through Statistics, the BeSoccer Pro Case, organized by the Johan Cruyff Institute in collaboration with BeSoccer Pro. Thank you for being with us today and for being part of this growing community that's passionate about football, innovation, and data analysis. In this session, we are going to explore how data is transforming football analysis through a hands-on demonstration of BeSoccer Pro, a powerful statistical tool used by clubs, analysts, and professionals across the football industry. You will learn how to access, interpret, and apply advanced data to support smarter and more effective decision-making in modern football, from scouting and player performance to match strategy. And to lead us through this, we are very pleased to welcome today's guest speaker, Mario Villate. Mario, welcome.
Thank you very much, Roman. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Let me introduce you to all the audience. Mario is UEFA Pro Licensed Coach with a degree in Business Administration from the University of Valladolid. He also holds a Master's in Sports Big Data, UCAM, and a Master's in Human Resources Management from the UOC, bringing together both technical and analytical expertise in football. Currently, he serves as a head of football at BeSoccer Pro, a leading platform for professional football data analysis, and he is also a lecturer at the Coaches School of the Castilla and León Football Federation. Previously, he was head of the Analysis and Scouting Department of the same federation, and also the International Scout in France for the Aspire project, where he worked for 3 years. We are in for a practical, insightful, and forward-thinking session. Before we get started, just a few quick technical notes. The first one, this session is being recorded and the replay will be shared with all registered participants. The second one, if you have questions during the presentation, feel free to drop them in the chat or Q&A box. We'll get to them during the Q&A section at the end of the presentation. Without further delay, please join me in welcome Mario Villate as we dive into how statistics are reshaping football as we know it. Mario, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Roman. Just to introduce our platform and what is our main focus and our main goal as an enterprise. I will share my screen.
Excellent. So you can share your screen with us.
Okay, so
Perfect.
Roman, can you say it? Perfect. Okay. So just to introduce what is BeSoccer Pro, which is our story. We are a professional tool. It has been created within the structure of BeSoccer, which is a fan website, a football app that is the most popular used in the world of football, with the largest database in the world of football. And in 2018, we decided to create pro football database organized regarding the main needs that the club or federation would need in terms of scouting, recruitment, or analysis of performance. Therefore, we had this tool with us, and 3 years ago, we decided to open it to the main market. So we've been developing it from 7 years ago, but we decided to start commercializing the product in 2022, and that's why we have here now BeSoccer Pro. We are currently working with more than 50 clubs around the globe, and with federations, big football agencies as well, and also media, because we are data providers for big media providers. So what we have here is the main dashboard of the tool. We can find here some of the main tools that we have within the platform, such as the list, the field diagrams, our searches. Just to introduce briefly, which is the main use of all of those. First of all, we can check which are the matches that we are going to track in terms of our favorite competitions, our favorite teams, our favorite players. That will allow us to save us a lot of time while we are looking for these specific games. Then we have the players that we have in our favorite database. That could mean that they are the players that we are following with more exhaustive training point of view. As you can see here, we can add some notes to these players. So that is why we will follow these players exclusively from our account, because the platform works with a user and password individually. And then we will have this list field diagrams to searches. First of all, with the list, what we can do is organize players regarding our own criteria. We will be able to share them or not with the rest of our colleagues. What we have within the platform is a structure that, depending the role that you may have, you could be a director, a scout, an analyst, and that would allow you to see the different tabs within the platform. So just to give you an example of what we have here, these are the searches. There are filters that we apply to our database and we save. So instead of filtering it every week and doing the same filters once over and over, what we do is we save them, and then when we click in one of those, what we will do is automatically check our database. And as you can see here, we are looking outside the big 5 competitions and the 23 players that are considered emerging talent regarding our own indicators that I will explain later, and that they have a value of maximum 5 million euros in transfer market. So when we access here, we have 86 results. We can see since the last time I've checked, I have 64 new players and 32 that they are not meeting the criteria anymore, so they are deleted players, and I can just get access directly from here, clicking on them. Then, as you can see here in our results, these 86 players, they are players that have a RIP over 1.7, the transfer market value maximum 5 million, as we were mentioning before, and they have scored a percentile 50 or higher of goals during the last 3 months of this in the competition we have chosen. As you can see, if we click in any of these columns, we will sort them by this specific column, and it will show us which is the specific player that does the best rating in each one of those, such as the goals per 90 minutes, the transfer market value, the maximum middle of the player they have reached during his whole career. And then we can select the players that are interesting for us. Let's say for us is Vinicius Tobias, Felipe da Silva, Vukotic, and Jata. These are the ones that we have chosen because we think they are the right ones for the profile that we're looking for. We can save this selection in a list. And as you can see here, we have our own list created that we can just create a new one. We can say strikers out of the 5 competitions. We can add the descriptions, strikers who have scored a goal during the last 2 months. I like it. Competitions. And when we save it, we can just add them directly here, and we will be able, once we get back to the home, the main dashboard, the list that we have just created with the 8 players added. Imagine we want to select all of them. We're going to save them, all of them, in a list. So what we will be able to check is, while this search is alive, so we select the filters, but that would change every week, because the filters that we need the players to meet, they need to fulfill this criteria we are asking to the tool. It can change every game they play. The list, they are static. So if I decide that these 86 players are included here, as you can see here now in the filters, we don't have filters, but these are just the players that I decided that are part of this list. Once I have this list created, I can even also filter within the list. Let's say, for instance, that we want to see all the players from the year 2004 or onwards. We receive now 64 players, so we can filter even within the list. Then as well, we have the possibility to create a field diagram. This field diagram works with a structure of folders in which I can create a folder with my name or with a competition and following. And once I'm here, I can create a field diagram. 2004 generation. And with tactic that I like, 4-3. So I will receive this field diagram and I can just add players directly from here. How? Well, I can just go to the players I have in my list. Let's say 5004. And for instance, Nacho Ferry, I will select him or add him to the forward position in my field diagram. So if I update here, I will see that now it's updated and the player is ready to check in the field diagram. I can even select the color. I can add a comment. And the comment and the color will be added. Of course, I can add a lot of players here, even manually. If I'm checking the leagues and I say Risk is one of the players I want to add to, I can just click on the plus, look for him, choose a color, and he would be added as well. So as you can see, what we try to do is to gain time, because it's probably the most powerful currency in the world football, trying to organize all these players. And we can change the map legend meaning as well. So imagine for us, green means sign, while yellow means negotiations. And when we save it, we'll update it, and we will have here the map legend with the meaning of those. Then this is, let's say, briefly introduce the part of organization within a sporting structure, particularly in sporting directors, head of recruitments. Then what we can do as well is try to analyze a football player in terms of advanced data. Let's go, for instance, to check Jans Hertudal. Pardon my pronunciation, probably from a native speaker. He's a player that we have checked that regarding the stats we have from him within his top player. And when we have here is the player's profile, in which we can check several things. First of all, we have the current season, in which we can see the matches he has played, the minutes he has been playing during the current season, the percentage of starts, of total minutes, of participation in goals and assists of its team. But then here, we will see as well if the player is included in lists or field diagrams that we have created. As you can see, he is included in one of my lists that is called 23 or younger with RIP 2.0. That is one of our metrics that I will illustrate right now. Then, of course, we have the historical record of all the games of the player, filtered by competition, filtered by team, and as well per season that we can just check here with detail in which competition he participated in during each season. And then here, what we will find is our own metrics, the ELO, the potential, the RIP, and the market value that we use in order to look for players and to analyze the performance of them. So first of all, we have the ELO. The ELO is a point exchange system that is very similar to the one used in the game of chess. It helps us to analyze the consistency of the performance of the players, because it takes into account how good they perform in terms of if they help their club to win or to lose, or to score goals, not to receive them. And it takes into account these very basic statistics, but very contextualized. What I mean with this is it's not the same if he's facing a much stronger opponent, taking into account that he's playing from Tromsø, if he's playing, let's say, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Espanyol, clubs in the first year in La Liga, compare if he's playing if he's facing a club of the same country but in the second tier, while Tromsø would be much stronger than that. That means that regarding the ELO of the player, but also the ELO of the club and the ELO of the competition, he will be able to win and earn different amount of points, and of course to lose them depending the performance. So if we check the matches tab here, what we will see is how is he performing during his whole career. And in this rating tab, we will see how is he evolving. So for instance, 4 months ago, he had 67 points of field. Then he played a lot of games in a row, mainly the full game. And his team won a lot of these games. So he was able to increase the real 2 points. Now, he didn't win any games for the next 5. He got subbed off, so he got stacked. Then he continued to win, and now he's in a very good streak. So as you can see, when he gave an assist that helped the club to win the game, he earned another point of view. So 2 games ago, he was in the 100% of the ELO percentile, that he has ever reached during his whole career. And that helps us to understand in which point the player is and how is the evolution that he is having. So if we go into the player's profile, to the ELO progression, as you can see here, we can see per game how he has been evolving and how good he has been for the team that he's currently playing. This ELO helps us to assess all the players in the world, because we have all this information for all our competitions, because they are basic stats but very contextualized. And as we have the largest database, it helps us to have a very consistent indicator in terms of the amount of games that we have to train our algorithm. Also as well, it's very important to understand that depending the age a player has is different. The ELO that he needs to be in a top player level or in a normal player level. And we can find this here. When we click in the number of the ELO of a player, we will see that if you are, let's say, 17 years old and you have 75 points of ELO, you could be a wonder kid, because for the amount of games that you probably have played, it's very difficult to reach this kind of points of ELO. But if you are 23, you would be a young top player, but not a young world star. You would be in the second tier of players in the whole world. While if you are a 27-year-old player, you would be between second level player and first level player, because probably you have played a decent amount of games and you would have more possibilities to reach higher peaks of ELO points. Then we have our potential. This potential helps us to understand which is the maximum estimation that a player can reach in terms of ELO. In order to understand how we calculate this potential, is an estimation that it is based in all the performance evolutions that we have in our whole database as this one. So we compare similar evolutions, and as we can see here in our players tab, that it allows us to filter. We have more than 1,400,000 players in our database, among which we have 300,000 players currently active. So that helps us to understand that the potential he could probably reach if he continues with a career like that would be 83 points. Then we have this indicator, which is the RIP. RIP literally means ratio ELO age position, and it is a comparison of the historic sample of the performance of players of the same position, the same age, and the playing competitions with a similar ELO. We call that competitive context. And when I say historic sample, I mean that it is also compared not with players that fulfill this criteria and that meet this criteria right now, but also in the past. So mainly the RIP, we can read it in 4 different ways, 4 different levels. So when the RIP is below 1.0, that would mean that the player is performing worse than the average of players of the same age, the same position, and that are playing in the competitions with a similar ELO. When the RIP is above 1.0, that would be that the player is performing better than this average performance. When the RIP is above 1.50, that would be players that are standing out in that specific scenario. So there are players that we like to say they are ready to make a leap to a higher level context. That would mean a much stronger competition, a much stronger team within the same competition. And then in our whole database, we have around 300 players among the 300,000 currently active players that are above 2.0 points of grip. That would be players that are breaking molds in that specific scenario of country, competition, position, age, and that they are doing things that you do not expect for a player with that age and in that position in a competition with that level. So last but not least, we have the market value. We have here the transfer market value, as you can see, but then we have our own market value that it is based in the sporting performance of the player, the date of the end of the contract, and the absence of major injuries. So with these three items, what we try to do is the possibility to look for players that could be a market opportunity regarding the performance they are giving to his team, and maybe there are players that they are not so well known. So maybe the general idea of the market value of this player is not what we think that it could be regarding the sporting performance and value of these specific players. Then, of course, as we check the ELO per game, we have the possibility to see in which point he was 6 months ago, 1 year ago, 2 years ago, or even regarding the maximum ELO that he has reached. So that helps us also to understand in which point of his career it is, and also to look for players that maybe they showed talent in the past. Now they are not in the best shape, but they could be good market opportunities to sign. So when we get here into the different tabs, we can take a look in different items. I will focus mainly in the visualizations tab, in which what we can do here is create our own charts. Very easy in terms of the ability to create them. As you can see, we have several options. Some of them they're individual, such as the picture chart that help us to understand offensive, defensive, passing stats currently in the season 24-25 of their own competition regarding the sample of 45 players of the same position. And as you can see here, what we can create is different tabs, different lists of items that we think in terms of advanced statistics that are the more accurate for the profiles that we are looking for. So with these items, what we try to do is create the right chart for them. Then we have the possibility as well to create comparisons. So for instance, if we compare him to another player, such as Wilfred Digo from the same competition, we will be able to go here. Sorry. There we go. We can select the competition to compare. If we want to add the national team games or not, we will select that there are certain filters, and we will generate the infographic. As you can see, we have the sample of games, the sample of minutes, the comparison between them in terms of rating, ELO, RIP, dates they have, the team that they participate in, and the comparison of the stats that we have available. Recoveries, defensive tools won, successful progressive runs, and that help us to understand which is the main difference between those profiles in terms of which kind of player I'm trying to sign, or I'm trying to analyze if he's in my roster and I want to get the best out of him in terms of help my team. Of course, as well, we have other indicators, such as if we want to see the heat map evolution of a player regarding the last 6 games, for instance, to understand that Jans is probably a player that helps more in the left channel of the field. So we will see this information when he's able to participate more in the opponent's field, closer to the opponent's box, or sometimes he has to spend more time in their own field. Of course, as well, we can see the shot map of the player to help to understand with the player, with the coach, or maybe with the sporting director when we are trying to see the player, how many shots he made, how many of those were a final goal, a safe shot, or a missed shot, and that will help us to understand which is the best accurate position for him and which is the main threat for the opponents when the player is facing them. So with all this information, we have as well as the possibility to analyze the physical data. So as you can see, we can create different scatter plots based on the different games that we have included. We can select some of them or take into account all of them for the chart. And as you can see, in every chart, we have a lot of details that help us to understand the context, because we understand all the data makes sense when we have the context with us. So he's a central midfielder, the value he has compared to 45 players overall, which are the competitions that are taken into account, full-time games, so we can filter them at just the second half, with season, with at least 60 minutes played in that in this sample of games. We can be more strict or less strict. And then as well, we can look for similar players. That means that if we want to look for Jans Hertudal, a similar profile for him, because we feel that he's a very interesting profile, but maybe it's not the kind of profile that we can sign for our current club. We can say, okay, maybe players from the year 2000 that are playing in first, second, or third years, that they have a RIP, let's say, over 1.40, and the transfer market value is maximum 3 million. Then, of course, we can say the current deal is at least, let's say, 66 points, and we can say that he has played at least 1,000 minutes during the current season, the last season. As well, we can create our list here, or we can select the stats that are interesting for us when the contract ends, and maybe say he plays in the top 5 leagues, or he's playing abroad, depending on the nationality. We want to check in UEFA competitions, so we filter, and we see which are the 8 players that could be most similar, and we see that the ones that is actually similar with a percentage over 80%. Is Helgesen. We can generate a radar and see the comparison and even get into the profile, and then we can compare it to him. As we can see, he's an older player, he has a lower RIP, but it could be a similar player to him, but with a lower budget, because he's not such a rising star, he's more a mature player, and it could be interesting for us as he is also an underrated player for the market. Then once we have checked all of this, when we have all this data sheet, we can also help you to use the tool in order to make your subjective analysis. So as you can see here, create report. We can create match reports. I can show you here. Sorry, I misclicked. Perfect. So we will see all the games that have been played today, or the games that have that were played yesterday, and we can look regarding our field diagrams or our list for the games that are the more interesting for us. So let's say I want to see the games that the players I have in my list, they're involved. So I will click and I will see that, for instance, 4th of October, I will have Onielen going to play this game, or here, Daniel Karsbach, he's going to play this game, and that helps us to assign the games to me or my colleagues, and I will find the games here on my calendar or in my list if I prefer so. So it's another way to organize internally, and then when we have the possibility to create match report. Imagine we want to do it from the championship. We can create a report, and that would be the view from a laptop perspective that we will have from the game. If we are on a mobile phone, what we will have is here the possibility to, with just a click, change the club and be able to do the report for both teams. So what we have here is all the lineups of the game. We can do that even during the game. And you can check that some of the players, they have a white background, so they are not players that we are following. But for instance, Jamie Cummings, he has one on a list here. Paul Norde, he has one on a field down here, so he will be player included in one of my field diagrams, while Jamie Cummings is included in one of my lists. And I can move the players while I'm watching the game. So maybe one of the wingers is the high position and wider, while the other one is more in the half spaces. Both of the strikers, maybe they have different positions. One of the central midfielders maybe is more number 6, as well as the right back. And when we stop moving those players, we can just click on one of those and we receive this template that we can modify 100% for each user. So this is just an example, okay? But each partner, each client that is working with us develops their own methodology and their own criteria in order to scout players. So as you can see here, we can add some tactical notes as well. Even notes from the manager, and we will receive the individual report of the game within the game that we can watch. And as you can see, it's created automatically with all the stats of the season, the points, the rating, and the comments. But as well, we can see the full report. That would mean that I have the report's author, which is me. I have seen this on TV as I have marked it, and I have the positioning of the players that I have selected, and I see the table. I have just, in this example, analyze one player, but if we analyze 4 or 5, we can see the whole roster and highlight the players that are interesting for us. Okay, then we will have the notes of the strengths, the weaknesses, the defensive phase that we have registered in this match report. Then, of course, the interesting thing here is now when we get into follow players, what we will have is the possibility to mix all this data that we have, such as the elo, the potential, then the basic information that we can provide, such as the date of the end of the contract, the height, the year of birth, the team, and then also the subjective information, such as the scouts, the reports, or the average rating that we have given them. Just to introduce you as well, the players filtering tool, I will close this. What we have is the possibility to filter our whole database by different criteria. Imagine we want to look for Greek players. They are playing abroad. We will have almost 300,000 players that they are Greek and they are not playing in Greece. So if I'm a Greek club, it could be helpful for me in order to look for players that could be interesting to sign, and maybe they are homesick and they are interested in market opportunities because they are keen to return to their home. As well, we have the possibility to filter by countries, by leagues, by teams. Not only now, but also historically. Imagine we want to see players that they have experience playing, let's say, in the Belgian Pro League. They are over the year 1997. So you will be able to see players that they are currently in the Belgian Pro League, and some of them that they have been there in the past. And now I want to focus on the ones that are currently playing in the top 5 leagues. So now we have 78 players, and we can see that they are in the big 5 competitions. And maybe I want a player that he is mature. Let's say that during the last 6 months, the elo is decreasing, but yet the maximum career elo he has reached is over 70 points. So he showed talent in the past. So now we have 37 players. Of course, this is a very fast example, but just to show you the idea of players that they have a neutral or negative difference during the last 6 months, and that maybe they are not playing enough, maybe they are not in the best shape, as you can see here with the 6 months difference, and they could be good opportunities to maybe get a loan or to offer them to get another opportunity in Belgium where they have experience. Okay. Then, of course, we can filter by the position, the dominant foot. As you can see here, we can look for center backs that they have a rate for 1.50, that they are playing in, let's say, CONMEBOL competitions, and that they are higher than 180 and younger than 1999, playing in the first and second tiers. So we have 100 players that are meeting this criteria. With just a few clicks, I am able to collect them all in just one view. Okay. And as you can see, we saw them, for instance, for the evolution of Tilo during the last year. We will see some of them that they have evolved a lot during the last 365 days. So probably they are players that they are very interesting to track. As well, we have the ability to track per contract, per performance. So imagine, let's say, we want to focus now in England, and we want to look for players that they have been at least one time with the under 21, at least one time with the under 70s, but never with the national team. So we have 65 players that, as you can see, they have been called up with the under 21 and the 17s with a very strong national team, that they've never made it for the national 18, but they still, there are good opportunity markers to track, to follow, to see where they are now, and to see if they are in good shape, because they showed talent in the past, and they could be the possibility to get access to top-notch talent that maybe when they got more mature, they had some struggle to adapt. Maybe they are some of them too young yet to have been called with the national team, and they could be good market opportunities. And then last but not least, what we have is the possibility as well to filter by events. Imagine we want to look for the last 6 months here. We are able to look for the Ligue 2 players with a percent of 50 or higher of minutes, let's say during the last 6 months, that they have a percentile of successful dribbles 70 or higher, and that they are winners, even if it is the secondary position. So we receive 55 players. As you can see, them, some of them have already left, as we asked for the last 6 months. Some of them, they are not in the League anymore. They are in the first year now. Some of them, they are in the MLS, but we want to check them all. And we can create a visualization here, a scatter plot, in which we will say, okay, they are good dribbles. Now I want to see how good are they in terms of crosses. So I select for the x-axis amount of crosses, percentage of successful crosses during the last season, and I can say that have played at least more than 1,100 minutes. I'm going to check it in white so you can see it better as I share the screen, and just taking into account domestic leagues, as they are from Ligue 2. We want to avoid the cap, and they are not playing international tournaments, so the domestic leagues would be enough for us. And we see now 44 players, and then we can see which are the best crosses in terms of amount of crosses that they made per 90 minutes. and also the percentage of success when they cross the ball. We can just go here, print the PDF, print the image as we do with the chart before, and be able to check them. And last but not least, we have as well our transfer tab that helps us to understand if the players come, let's say, from the Belgian Pro League to Ligue 1, and we want to check the last 4 seasons. We filter. We can do it per game. We can just keep one of the original destinations, one of them blank, and we will see all the players' nationality, the players' age, the players' position, the destination teams, which teams they come from, and that will help us as well when we are negotiating a deal or assessing the actual value of a player, which is the actual price that we think is fair compared to recent transfers and how the market is going in terms of fees. So this is the general introduction with the tool. You can see we have some of the tabs, such as the look for the ability to look for managers, a lab that help us to analyze the teams more in depth. But I would be happy to answer any questions you may have. I hope you find it useful.
Thanks, Mario, for your presentation. Now it's time to receive all the questions from the audience. And in this case, we have received different questions. Probably you mentioned this during your presentation, but at the end, we can go ahead. And we have the first one from Luisa Molenda from Sweden.
Okay.
And she asked us about how often is the data updated?
Well, the data is updated as you saw in the ELO evolution per game. So we have our own data team. We work with some other big providers in this market as well in order to check the quality of our own data. But the ELO, the match information is calculated per game, and then all these indicators that we have, they are directly connected to the ELO, so it's something that is updated per game. As you can see, the match reports and the match lineups, you can do it even during the game. So that is something that it is also updated week by week. And then, of course, the injuries that we have not, let's say, checked in depth all this information in this demonstration. But the injuries, sometimes we collect the information about the injury, but we do not have the reason until they get recovered, and then the information is open to collect it. When it's gets to, let's say, into medical reasons, sometimes it gets a bit more confidential, but it's something that we try to feed it every day, because the information, we need it to be fresh. This is very important to make decisions in the market.
Yeah, exactly. We have another question from Lisa, and in this case, she asked about do you have data on women's players as well?
Mm-hmm. So as you can see here, we have shown you the players are, all of them are men. Now we have been with this project, that is the one that it is currently open, and the screen I'm sharing, that is the coaches. And with the women, the main important thing is that we cannot do it yet, because we do not have such a big sample as we do with the men's football. That is very, very important for our indicators. So the larger the sample, the more consistent our ELO could be. And that is why we collect all this information about the women. So if you check the fans website, that is BeSoccer, not BeSoccer Pro, you can see that all the women's football is included. We are even API providers for very big agents in the world of football for women's football. But in terms of analytics, we haven't gotten there yet, because we need more time in order to create our own analysis.
Perfect. Now we go with Dean Bos from Netherlands. And he asked us about how does the market value get determined? Okay,
so the market value that we offer, it's directly linked to the ELO rating that we provide. And then it takes into account, as we have all the transfers for the whole reasons for during the beginning of football, where we try to give this compared to the ELO he has, compared to the performance he's giving to the current club, compared to the dates of the end of the contract, so how much contract he has remaining, and also the absence of major injuries, which we think that for evaluation of a player is very important. We give a value that it is this market value. I can give you an example how we can look for players with our own market value. So imagine we want to look for players that for us the value is higher than 5. Let's say UEFA competitions, not playing in the top 5 leagues, and maybe for transfer market the value is among 1 and 7, and they are players born from the year 2000. So we received 440 players in the whole Europe. That help us to see that the transfer market value, which is of course interesting, could be, for instance, for Lucas Hay from Anderlecht, 5 million. But for us, we think that the current value is higher. He has a RIP of 1.9. The age he has, the position which he plays, we think that it could be a player that could be underrated in the market. We are not saying that as a club you would need to pay this money in order to get the player because we think so, but we think it's a player that is so more talent and more performance as the general market recognizes him. One of the examples we usually talk about, because it's something that was very visual, was Lewis Ferguson. Lewis Ferguson was a player that was playing in Scotland. And when he was playing in Aberdeen, he was a very important player there, but the market allowed Bologna just to pay 3.5 million for him. As you can see now, the market value for transfer market is 28 million. For us, it's almost 29, but it's very close. But when Bologna paid the money for us, he was already a very important player in terms of ELO or in terms of RIP. And for us, the market value back then was already between 10 million and 20 million for us. So they paid 3.5, and now probably they would be very happy to receive a biggest transfer for something higher than 20 million.
Perfect. Excellent. We have a specific question from Dean as well. When showing us the list of players, we see that Lukaku has the highest ELO score and just below Salah. Could this mean that according to the model used to calculate the ELO, Lukaku could be the world's best player?
Yes. So regarding the ELO of the players, you need to take into account that if you are playing, for instance, for the clubs that they usually reach the final of the Champions League, they are the teams that they have the highest ELO already. So in those sense, it's very difficult for the players there to be the highest ones. But then again, the highest ELOs that we have in our database have been reached by Messi, by Cristiano Ronaldo, while the highest RIPs have been reached. I can show you. Sorry. I think this is very visual. The highest RIP would be reached for, sorry. There we go. Pau Cubarsí, Lamine Yamal, player from Portugal, from Holt, Rested from Toulouse. And as you can see, the ELO of these players is very different. So Cubarsí is reaching a higher RIP than Yamal, with a very lower ELO compared to Yamal. Why? Because it is more common that a winger, even though that what Lamine Yamal is doing is of course something unbelievable, it's more common that a winger that is young appears before a center back that is this young. So that is why, as he's compared to center backs, the rip is higher. While, as you can see with Froholt, he's a central midfielder. He has a very high rip, but he's compared to players of competitions such as the Primera Liga in terms of field, and they are 19 years old. So even though the rip is very high, the elo is again very far from the minimum. So that is why we combine these two. And when you start playing with this, as you can see, Hausen, Sesko, there are players that you are nowadays talking about the younger prospects and the best prospects in the world, while the elo is more the mature and the consistency of the players. So it is not that the highest elo is the best player, but it's the most consistent performance nowadays from players that are facing stronger teams. I hope I have explained myself in order to clarify it.
Perfect, Mario. And we have another question. Luis again is asking about how is your pricing model to have access to this platform and also integration via API?
Yes, so mainly when you hire the service of BeSoccer Pro, it depends on the number of the competitions that you want to get access. So this is an example of the full tool, but maybe you are working in a second tier club in Croatia and you want to have access to 20 competitions, including all in Croatia and the countries that you have around you. So you can do that. And of course, it has a very different price that if you have 100 competitions or all the competitions included. Then by the name of users. So if you are working in a club, in a federation, in a football agency, media, that could change the price if you need 5, 10 or 20 users, because the user cannot be connected at the same time to the platform. And then more developments, let's say ad hoc developments that you want to make within the tool. So for instance, with a match reports tool, the template is something that it is included, but if you want to create your own panel for loan players and then to customize something for the academy, and you want to have, we try to be a core tool for the clubs. So let's say if you want to create something new for you, it would be a different price. Okay.
Perfect. And again, Luisa has another question. When answering one of my questions, you mentioned data providers. Could you please tell us what data sources do you use? Not only for near real-time statistics, but where does the data from players, leagues, and teams come from?
So for the question that Luisa has just asked, this is especially our strength. So lineups, players, leagues, competition, we've been collecting data from the year 2008. And it's something that what we try to do is to get to those competitions that we only collect ourselves, because maybe it's the second league in Tanzania, maybe it's an under 17 friendly match, maybe it's under 16s in a big country tournament, but the players there are on the 16, so it's very difficult to track them. And that is why for us it's so important our data mining department, that they've been collecting data for the app, but also for BeSoccer Pro for different projects within the tool. And this is how we got born. At the first place, we were a database, and then we decided to create a tool. But we were born as a database. So that's our main objective as an enterprise.
Perfect, perfect, Mario. So now, last question. How do smaller clubs with fewer resources use BeSoccer Pro differently compared to top-tier clubs?
Well, I think that one of these main differences is when they are looking for talent that they cannot reach, especially while talking with the smaller clubs, because they do not have so many live scouts that they can go travel very far and see a game and cover, let's say, a quantity of games that allows them to reach all these corners of the world of football, because talent can grow everywhere. And then Of course, in terms of the organization, sometimes with the smaller structures, what they try to do is a very fast process in which, let's say, they do not have so many levels, so they can work very fast among them, and the tool can give them, let's say, boost all this agility they need, while to create structures, levels of hierarchy, the ability that maybe one sporting director can check all the work of all the scouts, but the scouts can only check their own work, because if not, they are going to get bias from other colleagues. That is very important for bigger clubs, that they need to be very sure when they make a very big investment compared to a small club.
Perfect. Excellent answer, Mario. So we're arriving at the end of this webinar. Well, just to end the webinar, thank you so much for your time and for sharing such valuable insights with us today, Mario.
Okay, thank you very much to you, to all of you who have attended today, for your questions, your time, and thanks for the invitation. It has been a pleasure.
Thanks, Mario, and thanks to everyone who joined us today. We hope you enjoyed the session, and found it insightful. We hope to see you in our next session. Okay, and since then, take care. Have a nice day.
Nice day.
Bye.